I talked about this site, crowdfunder.com. How many people saw this? So 500 odd people watched this stream. And it was because Mike Barron had jumped on there after he got kicked off. Was it Kickstarter? He got kicked off one of them. He went over to Crowdfunder and it was there. And I was like, all right, well, let's check this site out. I'd never heard of it. You guys hadn't heard of it. A lot of you still haven't heard of it. And I want to point this out. I've just saved this screen grab here. This is on their code of ethics. We were reading through their code of ethics to sort of see what they're all about. A lot of it was just, you know, regular corporate jargon that you find these days. And it says, respect, tolerance, and responsible behavior. We strongly believe in diversity and inclusion. All people, regardless of ethnicity, ability, orientation, or how they identify, are welcome. It then jumps into, we affirm that art is an expression, and it's all about how you can show hate in a story, but you can't be hateful, essentially, right? Okay. Like I said, it's your corporate sort of mandate these days. It's all about inclusion and ethnicities and abilities and everything. Well, I went there today because after watching this video that we're about to EFAP, I wondered, because to me, that seems hypocritical. And it's still hypocritical, but it's just, anyway, the updated code of ethics. Now, remember, it went from this one to this one. There's a new one here now that's just popped up. It now says, people who publicly promote a non-inclusive ideology or self-identify as part of a movement that is not fully inclusive may not run campaigns on Crowdfunder. Now, if I didn't know any better, if I was taking this at face value, I would think, oh, they're like, no KKK books, please. You know, no, I don't know what else it would be.
Yeah, right. Like no KKK, no Antifa, no, right. Yeah,
whatever.
All the crazies.
the ones that are actually listed on those like hate group things or whatever.
Right.
That have mandates. You can go and read them about what they're about. But we know this is not about that. This is about ComicsGate. They consider ComicsGate part of a movement that is not fully inclusive. Are we partially inclusive, but not fully inclusive? And I love the hypocrisy here. So all people, regardless of how they identify, are welcome, except for those who self-identify as part of a movement that we disagree with. Like right there, one after the other. Right there. I was in indie comics before CG in the webtoon space. The only way anyone ever talked about what they were doing was by their identity. Oh, this is a black teamed book. This is a gender non-binary book. Oh, what's it about? Doesn't matter. It's we're this and that with this group, and that's all indie comics is outside of ComicsGate. This is like ComicsGate is like a oasis where you can just leave all that stuff alone. And we didn't want to play into that. We didn't want to be part of that. We said no to that, and then because of that, we get smeared as the movement that is not fully inclusive. If you're on Twitter, you might have seen it shared around just recently. Like this is like hours ago, people started sharing this around. And so over on the right here, this is a fellow by the name of Chris Braley. We've had him on the show a bunch of times. He works with Mike doing all of his crowdfund campaigns. And this fella here is David Barak. He's president of the company that runs Crowdfunder. And this is a follow-up discussion that they had after Chris essentially got in touch with him, just saying, well, what's the deal? So we're going to listen to it.
How are you? Good. So where should we start? I guess I can start. I did talk to our leadership, and the position was that we, while we recognize that you can't lump everybody that belongs to a certain group together as all being the same people. Unfortunately, ComicsGate has the reputation that it has, and if people are going to declare themselves as part of ComicsGate, we can't change ComicsGate's reputation, even though we know that there are bad elements there, so there are bad elements like everywhere. the general perception of ComicsGate is problematic for us. And that's kind of where we have to leave it.
So
I
just
was wondering if you talked to Mike.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we matter of fact, he appeared on the Andrew Klavan podcast just a few days ago. I think it was on Friday, and I was very encouraged, thinking that you seemed like a reasonable fellow and we would be let back on. But it sounds like anyone that associates with ComicsGate is not going to be allowed on Crowdfunder. Am I hearing you properly?
You are, and I wish there was something that could change about this. And the challenge is that anything that has a gate at the end of it does not.
Not to stop it again, but that comment right there bothered me. I wish there was something that could be done to change, like they can change about this. There is, just don't do it.
Yeah, you could not do that.
Tell the truth. That would be a good place to start.
That's his change. And he said there the issue is the gate suffix. So like, what's up with there's putting a gate on anything? It's never a good thing. It's never and I've got a point to make about that. Let's just hear what he has to say about it though.
Does not make itself sound like it is a positive thing. It's not. Watergate wasn't a positive thing. I can't remember what the Clinton thing was called. That wasn't a positive thing. And so I understand the notion of embracing a derogatory term that somebody uses for you in order to empower yourself. But it just
I understand it, but I don't like it in this instance.
right
It seems to be, yeah.
It's a thing that people who are up against the wall and getting smeared do all the time throughout history, and it's worked well. And sometimes it works well, sometimes not. Doesn't matter either way. But so he gets it, but yeah, not for you guys. He doesn't like it.
So I honestly don't understand, and I don't have the research on this. I don't know why where the word ComicsGate came from, and why the group decided to rally around that as a name for people who are interested in creating comics that where the stories are the primary focus, and that there should not be these elements of wokeism introduced just for the sake of being woke.
So he gets it. He's had the discussion. He knows about it. He knows what it is. It seems that his issue is he has no spine. He's a coward. He says, I don't understand why they do it. And he actually alludes. I think it's here. If I didn't play.
It seemed like you can rally around an idea of let's make great comics that are great stories, and not adopt a name that people were using as a derogatory. I think it's
not the name. The name, like, what was the first channel that blew this whole thing up? Diversity and Comics was the name of that channel. It's not the name. It could have, like, ComicsGate could have been called Diversity and Comics. It still would have been smeared. It's what the people in that group are saying. So change the name 100 times. It's not going to change anything, and that's why you don't change the name specifically, because they want you to.
Is a derogatory term for. I think the ComicsGate came up as a derogatory term for people that hate gay people, or people that are racist or whatever. Like nobody comes up with a gate name to compliment somebody, right? So I don't know. I mean, enlighten me on that, but
it sounds like
a negative connotation.
Right. Well, I'm pretty sure I made a compelling argument last time, and so you've taken what I told you last time and went to the board, and you guys have decided that despite my argument and despite not having any evidence that Mike Barron has ever disparaged anyone based on their gender or sexual preference or faith or political disposition, that because he associates with this broad label of ComicsGate, then that is just something that you don't want on Crowdfunder. And so anyone, I presume anyone that associates with ComicsGate is not welcome on Crowdfunder. Is that? I just want to make sure I understand.
Yes, you are hearing correctly. Do you understand correctly? Okay. Yes.
And I take it that includes.
What I'm saying is that I don't understand, and it's not for me to understand, right? Like,
he should have stopped there. he's starting to dig into this. He's trying to rationalize this because it doesn't make sense, and he starts digging a little hole here.
It's not up to me, but I don't understand. If ComicsGate is the result of a criticism, the name ComicsGate is a result of a criticism that people had saying these particular creators are a non-inclusive group. When in reality, what you were saying is the majority of ComicsGate creators are inclusive. and that there are bad apples in there. I don't understand why ComicsGate doesn't come out and say,
disavow the bad apples comment.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
we don't want that name. That's not who we are. We want to organize under, open comics, and we want to say,
again, he's saying it. There you go. Like it originally was diversity. Everyone was watching diversity in comics, and then it's so frustrating to hear these same things said again and again and again. Just change the name, just do this, just do that. And then, all of these, like, he's not addressing the actual crux of the issue, being that this is a smear. This is an accusation. There's never been anything demonstrated to show that, this is what it actually is as a thing. It's a smear by our enemies, our ideological enemies, pushed onto us.
Right.
And, well, yeah, Chris gets into that as well.
Our philosophy is as follows. We believe that these are the things that comics should be versus, these are the things that we believe comics shouldn't be, or shouldn't be in comics.
Right.
So that's what the part that I don't understand, but I can't change that, right? Like, I can't change.
Well, and no one associated with
decided to.
Sure, but no one in ComicsGate is going to change how they present themselves. That would be like saying, well, right-wingers are racist bigots. Well, does that mean that all right-wingers must come out and say, well, I'm not right-winger, here's just what I believe, or I'm not a patriot, here's just what I believe? I mean, you can't let your critics define who you are and how you present yourself, and you certainly can't respond to all of your critics. I mean, is Mike Barron supposed to show his marriage license and a photo of his wife anytime someone calls him a racist? Of course not. I mean, he's not going to address that. But if he wants to lean into it and say, look, these guys called me racist, you guys know I'm not, back this book. Hitching the plow to the outrage isn't necessarily letting the enemies define you. It's just basically saying, you people were not going to buy this book in the first place. You're trying to make a stink about it, and we refuse to bend that knee. But it sounds like you guys are bending the knee. You don't have a clear definition of what ComicsGate is. And so you've taken the side that has determined that it's a bad label. You don't want to be ComicsGate. So if people think that you don't want to be ComicsGate, then we don't want those sorts of people on the platform. So what platforms does that include, David?
Couldn't have said it better myself, Chris.
No, I mean, Crowdfunder and what else? FundRazr? What are the platforms under your purview?
All these platforms no one's heard of.
I want to, we have Crowdfundr, FundRazr, and we have another one called CoCoPay. Those are our few platforms.
What's that third one?
And it's called CoCoPay. It's on the Connection Point website. If you look at Connection Point, that's our company.
All right.
We have our platforms.
Well, if you guys aren't interested in associating with us, and I've already made my plea to you, then we will not be interested in associating with you. And I know you won't mind me making sure that ComicsGate and anyone related to or following ComicsGate knows that they are not welcome on Crowdfundr, FundRazr, or CoCoPay, or anything under your platform.
So of course, you say you can say whatever you want to say to. So I'm not going to stop you.
Of course you wouldn't. I mean, that's how you feel. Yeah. Okay.
I got to be honest with you. So we have.
This is great.
We have no stake in any sort of political anything, right? Like, that's not the nature of our company.
You just planted a stake.
A lot of conservative.
You literally just planted a stake.
Let's me put this stake down. I just want to tell you about how we have no stake. This flag
is well done at this point.
It's flying this flag. Yeah. It gets worse too.
Globally, I'm not talking about American, because we're a Canadian company, and we have people globally. We have a lot of conservative and progressive and liberal and like all kinds from all over the world. What we don't have is sanctioned companies, like sanctioned countries. We don't have anything from Iran, we don't have anything from Syria, etc. But we have from all walks of life, from all over the world on our platforms, and we are not interested in being an arbiter of political views. That's not what we do, right? And
he's literally
being
an arbiter of political views. As he says, we are not interested in being an arbiter of political views. Like, you have decided, chosen, you say like you have no choice, but you have chosen to side with the people who have said, this is what ComicsGate means, this is the reputation. You've had ComicsGate reach out to you and tell you, no, that's not what it is. Look at the evidence. Look at what's been happening over the last 5 years. He saw that and he said, nah, that's fine. We'll decide to go those other people and just, and agree with them essentially. And then ban anyone who even associates with ComicsGate from all of their crowdfunding platforms. But we're not arbitering anything. We're all about inclusivity. If this is what inclusivity looks like, we don't want any part of it. I don't know the exact mechanics of what went down, but I think, yeah, you can see it. People are saying you can see it in his eyes. He looks frightened.
And there we have quite a few conservative campaigns that are on our platforms. So
are you vetting who all of those people associate with?
Yeah.
So in the event that we hear that they are doing something that is in general in violation of our terms, or more specifically, like in this case, promoting a non-inclusive agenda, that when we are notified of that,
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, we will have to exclude them. But we don't go through and vet everybody in advance. We don't do that.
And you weren't told. We didn't get suspended for ComicsGate. We got suspended specifically. What Shannon told me.
All right, they go into a little bit of that.
It's not aligned with community
Oh,
standards.
sorry, guys. I just want to get to Lightbrain.
It certainly doesn't express ComicsGate, and nowhere on the campaign communications do we mention ComicsGate. Mike doesn't even mention how he votes, and he certainly doesn't express any form of terrorism, discrimination, harassment, bullying, violence. And I asked you to look for any examples of Mike Barron doing that. So what you've decided is, because he associates with people that far left progressives believe or have labeled a hate group because they have criticized certain aspects of the comic book industry that they disagree with, that is your decision. That because these people are not liked by these progressives and fall under the banner of ComicsGate, whether or not they mention ComicsGate on their campaign, they're out. And David, I'm not even interested in remedying this with you. I mean, at this point, if that's your decision, that's your decision. I just want to be absolutely clear.
Yes, you are clear.
Okay. Well, David, I don't think we really have anything further to say, do we? Unless there's something else you wanted to add. There's no sense in us wasting one another's time.
Fair enough.
Okay, thank you.
Chris, well done.
Very well done.
Exposing it. I mean, look, like I said at the start, like, you know, I gave this guy the benefit of the doubt because he had Mike Barron's campaign up there. I talked about his thing. I said, look, I read their code of conduct at face value. And I was like, well, if, you know, if it's what's written there, we should be fine. But of course, there's that double standard. I mean, because how can you make sense of this? How can you be all about inclusivity, except inclusivity for how people identify, except for those people how they identify? It doesn't make any sense.